On the Very Idea, a philosophy podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is On the Very Idea Shorts. Thank you for indulging with me here. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to start with a little game, which I like to do usually. In this game, I will say a philosophy quote. Hopefully it is not too obscure, but sometimes I choose the quotes for their beauty rather than their fame. I will say the quote, and then I will say it again, and then I'll give you a very generous 5 seconds to answer. Now, here we go. Entities should not be multiplied unnecessarily. That's it. That's the quote. Okay, one more time. Entities should not be multiplied unnecessarily. That's it. Okay, think about that. Let me count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, everyone. It is William of Occam, that 11th century theologian, and early practitioner of the KISS rule, keep it simple, stupid. And I actually thought it was W.V.O. Quine, the philosopher, the American philosopher, when I first read of it, and glanced at the William, because Quine, is also a faithful adherent of that idea, especially in his essay on what there is, to which his answer is not much, or at least no more than there necessarily has to be. And what William of Occam is talking about there is, Occam's razor, what we all know and love. And that is the idea that the simpler explanation is the better one if both are equally capable of explaining the phenomena. By the way, I just want to remind everyone that Occam's razor, it's not a scientific principle. There's nothing scientific about it. I've heard people confuse this before. The simpler theory does not necessarily mean it's the truer theory. Occam's razor is not a comment on truthiness. Rather, it's an aesthetic principle. Given two theories of equal validity, let's be gentlemen and gentlewomen and agree to use the simpler one. Let's keep our house in order. Let's Marie Kondo up our frameworks. But at the end of the day, it's not a knock on the truth of your theory. Wait a sec. It's an aesthetic theory. Then, should we actually be using Occam's razor? Should we prefer these desert landscapes in our theories and models? Why should we do this? Should we kick Marie Kondo out of our heads? Let's look at the sobering words of a philosopher from the University of Wisconsin named Elliot Sober. He writes, "Science is different, at least according to many scientists. Albert Einstein spoke for many when he said that it can scarcely be denied that the supreme goal of all theory is to make the irreducible basic elements as simple and as few as possible with having to surrender the adequate representation of a single datum of experience. The search for simple theories, then, is the requirement of the scientific enterprise. When theories get too complex, scientists reach for Occam's razor, the principle of parsimony, to do the trimming. This principle says that a theory that postulates fewer entities, processes, or causes is better than a theory that postulates more, so long as the simple theory is compatible with what we observe." But what does better mean? It is obvious that simple theories can be beautiful and easy to understand, remember, and test. The hard problem is to explain why the fact that one theory is simpler than another tells you anything about the way the world is. Oddly enough, the idea that simpler is better in science has its roots in science making concessions to theology. It has actually religious roots. Why is simple better? Because God doesn't design things to be confusing. This is Isaac Newton's very theologically heavy justification of Occam's razor. He uses religious justification to quote the Newt. To choose those constructions which, without straining, reduce things to the greatest simplicity. The reason of this is that truth is ever to be found in simplicity, and not in the multiplicity and confusion of things. It is the perfection of God's work that they are all done with the greatest simplicity. He is the God of order and not of confusion. And therefore, as they that would understand the frame of the world must endeavor to reduce their knowledge to all possible simplicity, so it must be in seeking to understand these visions. That's Isaac Newton's words. Now, this got mashed up and adapted so that in the 20th century, nature was seen not through a religious lens as being simple, but also through a scientific lens as being necessarily simple. What was once theological became ontological and scientific. well, not really scientific because it's just an assumption. But in pursuing simplicity in our models and theories, do we sometimes miss the complexity that may be present in nature? Maybe the true reality of science is one of complexity. I don't know. Anyway, beyond my pay grade, food for thought. Thank you for listening.